What a wild few days it has been in the WNBA. But for this video, let's talk about Sophie Cunningham and Julie Vanloo. So this is a few days old, but I'm sure a lot of you may already know that Sophie Cunningham kind of got called out for saying that the new expansion teams that have just been announced, which are Cleveland, Detroit, and Philadelphia, Sophie Cunningham mentioned how those places nobody really wants to go to. Let's just really quickly watch down what she said.
So I just think that it's kind of a hard decision-making team or situation. But man, I don't know how excited people are to be going to Detroit or Cincinnati.
So essentially, people are real upset that she said, I don't know how excited people are to go to Detroit. I mean, for example, this is actually just like kind of blown up. It has been blowing up on social media, but it blew up enough that Sophie Cunningham was actually questioned about this, which is why I'm actually making a video about this, because normally I wouldn't make a video just based on social media until it crosses over, until it gets to the level where it crosses over, and it crossed over. Because of posts like this, where this person says, you can just tell Sophie Cunningham is socially and politically uneducated. She barely has any awareness. She should stop speaking. And a lot of other people have talked about her not being media trained and whatnot, but I think it's just kind of funny that of all the statements that all the WNBA people have made, that this is the one that gets called out as like not media trained from, the people that aren't fans of the Fever and the whole like sections of the WNBA, the like silos of fans and whatnot. Because last season there were a lot of tweets that were very questionable, like when Dejanay Carrington played in Indiana and she said, Indiana fans are the worst in the WU, which is kind of weird to call out an entire fan base. Fan bases are just going to do this to each other, but there does seem to be quite a lack of media training in the WNBA, and this I can point out multiple instances, but I'm sure many of you already know them, so I don't feel like I even need to. Now, was it the smartest thing Sophie Cunningham could have said? Probably not. The example being that she herself is playing in Indiana, not exactly the most touristy destination of all places, but Indiana has a very hardcore basketball history, and they have Caitlin Clark. So you better believe that Indiana is a destination at this point in time. But like I said, this blew up so much that a reporter did ask her about this, and this was her response.
I know the history behind the WNBA. I know that both of those cities have had teams before and they got us where we're at, so I'm thankful for that. All I was really getting at is like Broadway, the off-court lifestyle. And so I think that is really intriguing. I think Miami's intriguing. That's all I was getting at. I'm thankful for what they've done for our history of the sport. I think it'd be fun to kind of get some teams outside the NBA market. I do think there is benefit when you do have an NBA team, but that's all I was getting at. I think people totally misread that situation. I would never speak down upon middle-class, blue-collar working people. That's where I come from. I'm from Missouri. I get I'm in Indiana, and that's kind of why I'm hinting at Broadway sounds fun. Sophie in Miami sounds fun. All I was getting at.
So I personally think that this is just something to kind of pick at for opposing fan bases. And in the WNBA, Sophie Cunningham is kind of an easy target for like the ops, as they're called. Side note, I think many of us know that Sophie Cunningham always wears like a long sleeve shirt under her jersey, so we don't really get to check her arms out very often. But look at her guns. Woo! To be honest though, the situation isn't like the biggest of deals, so I will leave it at that. I don't think that what Sophie Cunningham said was the smartest thing to say. Those cities do have rich basketball histories. Apparently, the WNBA decided to partner with cities that have NBA teams after seeing the growth of the Golden State Valkyries and how successful that was. I think they want to capitalize on that same type of momentum. But I also don't think this is the biggest deal in the world, and I don't know. But let's move on to Julie Vanloo, because this is a fascinating and developing story. And if you don't know who she is the guard for the Golden State Valkyries. She used to be on the Mystics, and last season there was kind of like an altercation between Caitlin and Julie Vanloo where she said, "You're flopping, stop effing flopping." But Julie Vanloo is kind of like a friend of the Fever fan base. She is often joining into the Twitter spaces and just like talking to Fever fans. So a lot of Fever fans have a lot of love for her. And I actually joined in on one space one time, and Julie Vanloo seems like a very down to earth, pretty chill, like kind of relatable person. And I think that's why a lot of people like her. But Julie Vanloo was just in the Euro Cup championship. She plays for Belgium, and Belgium was playing Spain. And Belgium came from behind. I think they were behind by 13 points with like 2 or 3 minutes left. And at those moments, if you're behind that much, you kind of like think, okay, it's over. And somehow they pulled off a crazy victory. Julie Vanloo pulled off a crazy play at the end. I don't even think she knew how she did it. And Belgium ended up winning the gold and taking home the Euro Cup championship. But because Julie Vanloo is also on the Golden State Valkyries, she was asked to rush back to the Golden State Valkyries, an 18-hour flight, mind you, to touch down and find out that she was waived. Julie Vanloo did have to miss the celebration. This is like one of the pinnacles of your career if you're a basketball player, winning gold, celebrating with your team, because she was asked to come back. And I think that it was just okay. The fact that she was waived, in my opinion, wasn't the issue, because that's what happens in basketball. And when they signed their hardship players, Caitlin Chen, she is actually a huge fan favorite in Golden State. She ended up balling out, and the assumption is that they cut Julie Vanloo, who is I think 32 years old, for Caitlin Chen, who is 23 years old. They play similar positions, so it's kind of safe to assume that. Anyway, I think the thing that they did her dirty. They did her dirty by having her come back ASAP, not being able to celebrate with her team a championship gold win on an 18-hour flight to just deliver this bad news. I mean, it's debatable what is and isn't right in this situation, but I feel like the decent thing, and it's pretty, like people are bad mouthing the Valkyries like crazy because of the feeling that the way that she was waived was just totally inhumane and lacked human decency. And so many of her teammates like went to bat for her. Emma Meesamum, that's like the player that everybody wants to land in the WNBA this season. Emma Meesamum was a teammate of hers on Belgium, and she commented on the Golden State Valkyries Instagram post saying, nah, making her miss a unique moment in Belgium is crazy. And Emma was not the only one. So many of her teammates like had her back. The Belgium Cats posted about it. Everyone on Twitter was like kind of going crazy and thinking this was like totally messed up. And Julie Vanloo herself, she just posted a bunch of like heartbreak emojis onto her Instagram saying that she's like has to process all of this, but she did end up responding, and what she said was, after traveling 18 hours back to the Bay, I missed a fan ceremony and the chance to share that special medal moment with my family and friends. I got back to San Fran as soon as I could. I left the party in the middle of the night after the game. To hear 1 hour upon arrival, we have waived you. Honestly, that stung. I understand it's business, but nothing prepares you for the loneliness that comes with getting cut. It feels like the whole world suddenly crashes on your shoulders. And then she did end up thanking the Golden State Valkyries for the moment. She said it wasn't about, being waived. She understands that and she sucks that up, but like in the way that it happened, it's like she was just crushed. And Natalie Nakase did respond, because this became big news. And here is what she said.
From my perspective, I would say that was respectful, because whenever a situation like that happens, you bring them in, and as an adult, you say things to face. I think that was out of respect.
So basically, Natalie Nakase thinks bringing her in and telling her face to face was the respectful thing. And this is a debatable topic. Like, maybe you think the same thing, but I personally think there are nuances to the situation. She is a Belgium national. She was with her very close teammates. She went through one of the pinnacles of her career and was asked to come back and leave in the middle of the celebration of that, to be delivered probably like the lowest news of her career. So it's kind of like a bit of a whiplash moment that I think that the franchise definitely should have taken into consideration. And this is just my personal opinion. I do understand if you think different than me, but I think it was, kind of dirty. But where could Julie land? I mean, okay, so as I was editing my video, Julie Vanloo has been picked up by the Los Angeles Sparks. And I don't know if I'm going to keep this in my video, but I did mention that that could be a landing spot for Julie Vanloo. And I also mentioned the Chicago Sky, but I guess it's definitely not the Chicago Sky. And this makes so much sense because right after Julie Vanloo was waived is when the Los Angeles Sparks waived Odyssey Sims. So immediately I thought, okay, Julie Vanloo is available. She is a point guard. She has skills that not a lot of people have in the WNBA. Her passing especially is really good. So Julie Vanloo is now a Los Angeles Spark. A lot of people are online saying don't bring Julie Vanloo over because she went into a space last night and some people recorded it and she said some things that a lot of people didn't like. Mainly Julie Vanloo, she was going to bat for Caitlin Clark. Julie Vanloo really admires Caitlin Clark's playmaking and she models a lot of her own after it. But a lot of people are kind of twisting the words around and thinking that Julie Vanloo thinks that everyone in the WNBA is jealous. And I don't understand why it's okay if Michael Jordan can say that about the NBA, but you know, players that are actually in the WNBA that have perspective can't offer a perspective that doesn't necessarily align with their own ideology. But hey, it's sports, especially in the WNBA. Anything that doesn't align with your ideology gets blown up into a dumpster fire. Anyway, I will be cutting this video now. It's pretty long, I'm assuming. But I will be going live for the Fever game tonight, the Fever versus the Aces, of which Caitlin Clark will be out. But after the game, I did this one time. We ended up doing like a 5-hour like marathon where we just went into the next few games in the WNBA, and it was really fun. If you want to join along, pop on in, come in the chat. I do engage with my chat a lot. It makes me feel kind of like, you know, sitting around like I'm watching with friends. But I also understand if you just want to watch the game alone, because sometimes I want to do that too. But I'll be there and I will see you either later or I will see you next time.